Welcome back to Frank's Model Aviation Workshop. This is episode 19 in the Carl Goldberg Ultimate 10-300 Biplane Build Series. And in this episode we are going to get to mount the bottom wing, get it lined up and the screws put in it. And with any kind of luck we'll finish the top side of the fuselage as well. I'd like to get this thing completed to the point where we're ready to do some filling and sanding, finish sanding. And who knows, we'll get this thing covered in no time. So I'll have to fuel proof the standoffs that I put inside the tank area and get everything situated in there. Then I'll strip all the stuff off of the fuselage except for like the servos and stuff, and we will start getting this thing finished up. We're not too far from finishing this thing. It's going to be pretty quick. So anyway, if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. Hit that notification bell so that you can be notified of future episodes of this build series or any other build series that you might be interested in. And be sure and like and share my videos. It might help the new guy out. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, I got everything stripped out of the fuselage. What I was doing over here was soldering that braided cable so it doesn't fray on me, because you play heck getting it into that little connector on the throttle. Right here. It's got just a little hole, and if you get a fray, it's a pain in the butt. So I soldered that, got it cut flush. I went ahead and glued in my tube. And I'm going to let that dry a little bit. Then after that dries, I'm going to go ahead and fuel proof these two standoffs, plus where I cut that cross piece. I'm going to fuel proof that too. Once that's dry, we will mount the wing. I could probably mount the wing while it's drying because it's going to be out of the way. So we'll get going on that as soon as I get back. Okay, the fuel proofing is done. Now I'm going to go set up to mount the bottom wing. I'm going to pad my table so that I don't put any hanger rash on the wing, and we'll get this thing lined up. I'll show you how I do that. So I use a Harbor Freight moving blanket to pad my wing while I mount this. And just a caveat here, these holes, they're not centered, so don't expect when I drill this hole that it's going to be right in the center of that seam there, because it's not going to be. So we'll get this thing lined up and I'll show you how I'm going to do that, and we'll get these holes drilled. Okay, it's not going to be easy to show you, but basically what I do is you match the angle of the center of the wing here with the angle of that bottom fuselage piece, and then you want to measure from the fuselage to the tip on each side. Make sure that it's equal, and I'll do that. I'm going to go from this upright to the tip. And I'm just shy of 24. And I'll go over here and do the same thing. And it's perfectly centered. So the next thing we do, we need to establish a center line. I'll put a centerpiece or like a pin here with a string tied to it. And we'll go from there to each side. Those have to be equal. So we will get set up to do that. So instead of using the string method, I'm going to go ahead and use the steel rule. Basically, you take the corner, put it on the corner of the wing, not the aileron, because that moves. So just put it on the corner of the wing and bring it over to the trailing edge, and I'm at 36 and just a shy over 3/8. So we'll come over here and do the same thing. Put the corner on the tail, and I'm at 36 and 5/8. So the wing needs to be moved a little bit. And one thing I failed to mention is you want to tape your wing in position so it doesn't move on you. So we're going to try, make an attempt to tweak this wing a little bit over. But I just moved it just a tiny bit. And since I untaped it, I'm going to also remeasure this to make sure that didn't move. It's the same. Good. So what do we got? $36.5. I know you can't see it, but you'll have to trust me. 36.5. So right there, that wing is perfectly centered and aligned. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to take my centering gauge, my centering tool that I use, and I'm going to center it in those holes and get it on there as best as I can. I'll get set up and show you that. So this will be my guide, and you're going to angle like this, because you got to know the bottom of the airfoil is going like this, and that bolt's going to come out like that. So you want to angle it out and make sure that when you drill it, you're drilling as straight as possible. Same with this, you want to go angle it that way. Using the pre-drilled holes in the wing mounts as a pilot locator, drill 5 32nd hole through the wing at both the front and rear mounting blocks. Here's where you want to be careful. Take your time. Make sure you're lined up. And centered. Don't want to drill into my my moving blanket. Alright, then it says to insert the 632 blind nut into the top of each hole. Make sure that the spurs are into the wood. Tap with a hammer to ensure a good fit, but we're not going to do that yet because we have a lost foam wing to mount. So I can untape it now. And we'll get the lost foam wing out. Now, remember what I said earlier, we're going to have to notch out the fuselage for this little the angled area because my wing is a little bit too wide. Okay, that's that. I'm going to set this back out there. Okay, look how nice this lost foam wing fits that wing saddle. This isn't glued in yet. The center sheeting isn't glued in yet because I got to do my servos. But as you can see right here, I don't know if it shows up in the camera, but there's like 3/16 of an inch I'm going to have to notch in and cut off. That's why I didn't do the fiberglass tape as well, because I knew I was going to have to do that. But we'll get that notched out. It's already centered this way on each side. I'm going to go ahead and check from the wing tip to the tail and make any adjustments necessary. And then we will go ahead and mark to cut that section out, and then we'll recheck. .36 3/8. .36 5/8 had the same exact thing. So we'll just tweak it a little bit. So we need 36 1/2. I think I shifted it. I really should tape that. That way it don't move. Check this real quick. This is a time-consuming thing because it has to be lined up perfectly. All right, I'm going to tape that right there. Maybe 6.5 there. There it is. So now I'm going to take a pen and mark where I need to cut. And after I cut this, that'll allow that wing to set right up in the saddle, and my incidence will be right on. So I probably should cut that first before I go ahead and drill. So let's do that. Okay, I'm going to start off with this. And we'll try to do this square. Okay, let's see how that fits. Okay, the notch is cut out of the trailing edge. Look how nice that wing saddle looks from the lost foam wing compared to the kit wing. Both sides look beautiful, and it matches up really good there. So we'll get out and drill these and put in our blind nuts and start closing in this fuselage, making it look like a dang ultimate biplane. So anyway, we'll get set up and do that. I think it's gonna be sweet. Same thing, just make sure your drill's centered. Be very careful. I got it. I think my battery's dying. Okay. Okay, the holes are drilled. So that's ready to be finished up with the ailerons, servos, and gluing everything together. We'll get to that eventually. Okay, so I got these wing mounting blocks set on these steel things. I'm going to pound it in using one of these things. It ought to be a quick work. Okay. I'm going to run a bead of medium CA around that just to hold it in. I'm going to test fit these. How about we mount the wing and see what it looks like? I'm not going to cinch down on it because I want to harden the wood. But we'll see what it looks like. How about we get one that fits? Where's my other screw at? That is going to be beautiful. Now I'm going to unscrew it before I damage it. And I just did. Dang it. Well, you're going to have hanger rash from time to time. I'm glad they line up. That's the main thing. Now that we test fitted the wing, we can get on to finishing the top of the fuselage. Hate to have repair work before I even flew the thing. I went ahead and ran a reinforcement bead of CA on both those blind nuts just to keep them in. Keep them steady when you're screwing that wing in. Sometimes they can pop out. One time I didn't glue them in and they popped out on me as I was putting the wing in. Hence I went ahead and glued those in. Alright, we'll get ready Next step is to put the top formers on. This is when it's going to start to look like something, guys. This is going to be sweet. I can't wait to get this thing done. Okay, it's time to glue in these formers, and I test fitted them all. So they are oriented the way they need to be. These have to be 90 degrees, so I'm going to use my tools here. And I'll hold one side while I glue the other. I'm going to use medium CA. So here's how I'm going to do it. It keys into the back part of this little tab that the Cabanes bolt onto. So I'm going to make sure it's pushed forward over here. I'll lift this up and glue underneath. Oops, come on. There. Wasn't quite down all the way. This is the only thing I don't like about this kit, is there's only one former between this long distance. It'd been nice to have like one right here, but they didn't do it that way. And I ain't changing it. I guess it's not needed. You got that one stringer you're going to put it down here after these dry. So we'll move on down here, and the way I'm going to do these, I already have them clamped in place, so I'm going to loosen the clamp and put some glue down in between there where the tab is. Center it up and put the clamp back in place. And then I'm just going to run a bead on either side here. That big gap there will be filled in. Same thing with this one. I'm going to loosen the clamp, throw some glue down inside there to clamp it, and then I'll just run a bead on either side. This one's going to be a little more difficult because that servo is in the way. This one is obviously warped, so I'm going to pin it. I'll pin it in position on the back side so that it stays straight. It's going to start to look like something here in a minute. Down here checking this other one. I'm up here on this first former we put in because it's crucial that it gets centered, and it wasn't, so I fixed it. Alright, now I'll come back here. We'll go ahead and run a bead on both sides. Like I said, that's going to be filled either with balsa or putty or something. Okay, this last one. I drew a line from the back side of the former, and I'm going to line it up in front of that line, centered, and that's going to be, it's got to be 90 degrees. That's just how it's going to end up. So I'm going to put some glue on this thing and see what happens. I'm just going to eyeball it for now just till it kicks off a little bit. This is what the turtleneck gets glued to. Pretty good eyeball. It was right on. Okay, once this gets set up, we put the stringers in the front side. I'm going to let that dry for a little while, and I'll be back. Okay, so I went ahead and started putting the stringers on. I noticed that the kit stringers were too soft and flimsy. So I had some 3/16 stock that was C-grain, but it's a lot stiffer than the kit one. So basically I just put the stringer in there, and what I want to do is I want a perfectly flat plane from the firewall to the dash. So I took my metal straight edge and I just made sure. Now it's a little bit raised on here, which is no big deal because I'm going to put like some 30-second balsa wood in there just to kind of raise it up to that height. But I want this plane to be straight. I did the same with the center, and then I'm going to do the same with this one. Basically I just put it on there like that, sight it down from the front, make sure it looks straight. And that one looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up there one more time. Make sure. Yep. Actually, that one looks pretty straight all the way across. So I'm going to go ahead and add the glue. I think I'm going to do a little thin CA first. Got to be careful because that's right above the engine mount. So I'm going to go ahead and put some glue back here. I'll check it again. Looks good. Now I'll put some glue here. Let that dry a little bit, then I'll cut some 30-second. See, the way I know I got to do that is, first of all, there's a raised area right here, or this is indented. But as you get out closer to the edge, the formers are right on. So I only need to do it from like here just a little bit, and then the center section, and it should be good. I'll just sand it lightly to conform. Then when we put our sheeting on, it's going to match perfectly. Another thing, these the kit pieces that you get to go along here, they have this slot, you know. I'm thinking, because these are like 0.77s, I think. I'm thinking of cutting some from 3/32 fresh balsa. It's a little stiffer too, and I think that it'll look nicer. It'll sand easier too. It's not C grain, it's A grain, but it'll with a little bit of coaxing, it'll curve around. I think that'll look nicer in the long run. This C grain, if you go to bend it, it's gonna snap. That's why I wanted to go with A grain. So I'm going to cut some 3/32 A grain balsa pieces to replace these It'll also strengthen this area a little better because it'll be a little bit thicker, which is not a bad thing. So we'll get set up and do that. I'm going to cut these off here in a minute. Probably could do that now. I think they're pretty much dry. I'm going to leave a little bit and then I'll sand it flush. I can't sand left-handed with a darn. There we go. And what I'm going to do before I move on, I'm going to go ahead and put an extra little dot of glue on each one of those just to strengthen it. And then we'll get set up to put the 3/32 in here and get it blend in. Not 3/32, 1/32. And we'll get that blended. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is do like cap strips. This is 1/16. And I'll just put like a little cap strip along this edge. And then I'll take my long sanding bar and just do this and sand it flush with the way it's supposed to be. So let's do that. I think it'll turn out better. I think this will look a lot better. Plus it'll give something for the glue to hold on to. I'm only going to come down just a little bit. I like that. When you're doing this, you want to make sure you span the dash and the firewall. That's gonna be way nicer. As you're doing this, you want to sight down, make sure you're going at the right angle. Keep it parallel to the wood. I think that'll be good enough right there. So I never did this on my previous ones, but the reason I'm doing it now is because I noticed on my previous ones, if I just used the notches in the formers, I would have like a dip, or it looked like a dip, not a severe one, but I'm just being, drastic with it. But you could tell when you put the cowl on, there'd be like a dip, and it didn't look right. These ones, these stringers are perfectly flat the whole way across. So, you want to try to avoid pressing down. Don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you want to try to avoid pressing down on them. That's why when I put them on, I'm going to use this to put them on. It's going to be a little difficult up here underneath those, underneath the deals. But what I could do, well, I don't know how I could do it. Just do it slow. We'll just do it slow and see what happens. I think the next thing is that stringer that goes on. Okay, it says to slide the two 5/64 die cut balsa front side sheets onto the Cabane struts. So it's 5/64. So 6/64 is. Okay. Wait a minute. Oh, I guess it does. Bolt the Cabanes to the fuselage top using 440 by 3/8 socket head bolts and number 4 washers and self-locking nuts. Oh, I put self-locking nuts on it. I don't remember that. Alright, we'll get that set up and do that. Okay, I've decided that I'm going to remake these front cowl pieces, the sheeting, because this, as you can see, is sea grain wood, and it won't bend as easy as A grain. It'll actually crack as it bends. So I'm gonna make. I got some fresh A grain, and it's gonna be 3/32 instead of this. It'll be a little bit thicker, which isn't gonna hurt anything. But we will get set up. I'm gonna go ahead and make 2 fresh side pieces and a top piece so it all matches the same wood. So we'll do that. Okay, as you can see, these are like 3 different types of wood. This is C grain, this is A grain, and this is crap grain. Like I think it's got mold in it even. So I went ahead and I cut new pieces. This is the centerpiece. And I got 2 brand new side pieces. They are 3/32, which will be give me a little bit more sanding forgiveness, I guess you could say. So we'll get set up, get these bolted on. I can't remember if I painted these prior to doing this last time. It might be easier. In fact, should I do it now? I think I'm going to. So we'll do that. I'll go get some paint to match the monocoat, and we'll paint those prior, because I don't want to like have to, get paint into those little crevices areas there and inside here. So we'll do that prior to putting these on. Okay, so I went to the store and got me some paint for the royal blue monocoat for anybody that's interested in knowing. The best match that I found was Rust-Oleum Deep Blue for the royal blue monocoat. It's as close as you can get. The cap looks a little bit just a shade darker, but that's fine. I don't care. And I'm going to get at and scuff up the cabanes and the cross pieces. Get them primed, and then we're going to shoot them with some paint. Let that set overnight to harden real good. Then we'll continue with the fuselage. So we'll get going on that. Okay, I'm going to start by shooting these with a little DC 540 high build primer. This is some of the best stuff you can ever buy, but they don't make it anymore. Dries really fast, sands out really quick. I guess an equivalent would be the, what do you call that stuff? Duplicolor might make something like it. High build primer. think it's better to get these painted now. That way I just have to touch up around the base of it. I'm pretty sure that's the way I did it. I scuffed these with 220 and cleaned them off with denatured alcohol. And I took a tack rag to them. Okay, we'll let that dry up. Then we'll come up and sand them with 800 grit and then shoot them with some blue. Okay, I was searching through the archives and I found out that I actually mounted these and painted them after the covering. So that's where we're going to go. I went ahead and I primed them so they're ready for paint. They're nice and smooth. But I'm going to go ahead and mount these. We have to feed them through the side sheeting. Basically like that. And my fresh balsa side sheets I compared to the originals, and they are exact duplicates. So I made that modification with the carbon fiber strip underneath there. So that made the kit bolts too short. So like I always do when I crash a plane or whatever, I strip it of all its hardware, and I had some longer bolts, so I didn't have to go to the hardware store. So we will start by feeding these up through here. I might have to, let's see, I might have to, well, they might go in there. Find a way to get them in there. It's tight for big hands. Come on. This might take all night. Jeez. Let's set this aside. I'm going to get those bolts up through there first. Try not to destroy what I already have made. There we go. I just had to break this surface there. I may have to trim these because they they might get in the way. Maybe not. We'll see. I have no idea if you can see any of this stuff. Kinda. You can kinda see it. What I'm going to do is put the bolts up through, and then we'll put the cabanes on. Okay. So there we go. Now we'll just put these on. We'll see where we're at as far as nuts and bolt wise. Yeah, it looks like they're going to interfere. So I'm going to trim them off. Okay, I ended up taking about a 1/4 inch off. So we will try and get these nuts on there. My hands are just very, it's an awkward position to be in to try to film it. You might hear some cussing. These are nylon lock nuts, so I'm still going to put a bead of CA over top of them if I can ever get them on there. There we go, we started them. I'm going to go ahead and start all of them before I even get an Allen wrench on them. I hope that these turn out good. I made these new side sheets and I put them up against the kit ones, and they are identical outlines, so they should work. I like the fact that I have a little bit more meat to sand off, or if I need to sand any. I pre-sanded them, but you know how that goes whenever you actually glue them up and you wet them, the grain raises, so you'll have to lightly sand them. This one doesn't want to go on. Can't see. Okay, let's try this one. This one's going to be a pain in the rear. I'm going to turn that. Maybe I can get a better angle on it. You son of a... Okay, I think I got it. Alright, now it's time for the Allen wrenches. Okay, I know it's a crappy angle, but we're going to have to do it this way. I'm going to try to do this without breaking any stringers. It's going. That's one. You guys probably ain't seeing the dang thing I'm doing here, but just gonna have to be that way, I guess. How am I gonna get to that one? Are you kidding me? Well, I'm gonna get these tightened off camera because I have to, it's gonna take forever. I gotta get a regular Allen wrench and do 1/6 of a turn at a time on that one. I can get the other one easy. Okay, the glue reinforcement on the back side of those nylock nuts are done. So now we're gonna put these 1/8" square pieces in their respective slot. Make sure it's butted up tight. And you take your wood and match it up. Now I'm going to run a piece of glue behind it. Now maybe I'll use thin. That way it'll get it started. Just tacking it. I don't think that thin CA does any good when you do balsa to ply. Thin CA is not the way to go. So I'm going to put a tip on a medium bottle. And we'll just run a medium bead in there. I don't know why I took the tip off this bottle anyway. I guess sometimes when you need a lot of glue quickly, it's better to do it without the tip. This is going to really start to look like an ultimate once I get this sheeting on the top. There we go. That's glued now. Double checking the deal. Looks good. This is the top sheet. And I squared off my edges so when they meet up, I should be able to get a really tight fit. I'm going to go over the other side and do it real quick. Just going to do it a section at a time because it's needs a couple seconds to set up. Dang, I just put my hand in that glue. Making a little clearance notch for to get my 3/32. Had to get me a new razor saw, so I got one of these Zona saws. I see everybody using it. I kind of like it. Works really nice. I like the way it works on the pullback. Well, this thing's not wanting to cooperate. I got a kink in the stringer. Okay, the stringers are now on. What I'm going to do, I'm going to untape this and move these down. Gonna have to spray the heck out of these things. May need to relieve these slots a little bit as well, because they need to drift back this way just a hair, so I'm going to cut it a little bit bigger. This is the kind of stuff you just have to deal with when you get to it. No big deal. And what I'm doing on the bottom side here is I'm cutting that slot at like an angle, so it'll go down better. Still need a little bit more. That's about perfect right there. But I'm still want a little more. I'm gonna put a new blade in. Reposition you so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just making this slot just a little bit bigger because I want that dashboard to be flush. Okay. That's what I like it. I like it a lot. So what I did was I angled these just a hair, and I can't really angle the other one because I can't get to it. I can try it. I'm angling the slot. I probably should have done that before I even put it on. Just matching the Cabane angle basically is what I'm doing. Kinda. Balsa wood's very forgiving, and it will do whatever you want it to do. You just gotta know what you want it to do. Try not to hack it up too much. You can always fill it. Okay, that's that one. I'm going to leave that be. If I need to do anything to it. More concerned with this side. Okay. Work on the other side now. Same thing with this. I need to extend those slots a little. fine. I'm going to angle that a little bit. I know you probably can't see a dang thing I'm doing. It's not something I can really stop and show you every time I get a chance. I don't really like having a gaping gash hole in here, but I can fill it with balsa putty. This looks like hammered dog do. Won't notice it after it's covered though. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that. Now I'm going to wet it severely. I'm just using straight water on it at first, see what it does. I don't want to spray the plane itself, just this piece of wood. This is something you want to take your time on, because it would be so easy to break this right now. So what I'm going to do is just basically just flex it a little bit. Get back at it with the sopping wet paper towel. See, if I had used that sea grain wood that came in the kit, this would have cracked instantly. there yet. Got a long ways to go. Mainly worried about, this is more of the curve you got to worry about, because that's what's coming around this former here. It's starting to come around a little bit on this side. What I'll do, when I go to fill in these areas here, I'll put balsa wood on the back side up next to the cabanes. That way I'm not pushing filler in there, it's just filling the fuselage full of filler. This paper towel, it's soaking wet, so I'm pushing all that water into the wood. It's not dripping out, you can see. Well, I guess there's a little bit, but not too bad. This is probably the hardest part of the kit right here. It's getting there. It's getting there. It's easier if you bring it up here. I'm just massaging a curve into it, and I'm only worried about this bottom half here. This is okay. It's wet enough to sit down, but you really need this A-grain wood for this kind of stuff. Here's the C-grain piece, and you just flex it a little bit, you can hear it. See that? It would have cracked instantly, even with water on it. I'll show you. A little water on there. It would have cracked instantly. It's too, it's not meant for molding, but A-grain is. I also need to start thinking about getting my turtle deck bound up to where it'll curve. As soon as I get this to where it'll glue down, I'm gonna glue it. Just taking my time. I'm in no rush. This is the most important part of with this build right here. I should put it in fast speed, but I kind of want you guys to see how long it takes to do this. Sometimes it takes a while. And what I'm going to do when I go to glue this down, what I should do maybe is see how that's forming really nice. That's gonna be nice. I should wrap this in Ace bandage like I did with the Boss foam wing. But as you can see, it's curving nice, and it'll glue down. But I want to still massage it a little. I don't want to have to put that much pressure on it. And it's meeting up perfectly in the middle of that stringer there. I'll do this first one on camera, and the other one I'll do off camera or in fast speed, because you can see it takes a long time to do. I think I'll move this camera a little bit so I can scoot this down here. Is that better? I'll try that. That way I can work on the end. That sea grain wood, you can tell that it's sea grain because it looks like fish scales on it. It's getting there. I just don't want. I don't want. I want it to like rest in there with hardly any pressure on it, because the glue will take longer to grab if the wood's a little damp. Try not to grab those stringers because they'll break, because they're made of sea grain. So I need to is not going to be easy, I'm going to tell you right now. This is the part where you can see it wave if you press down on the stringers too hard while you're gluing it. I'm going to add a little more water to it. Could put ammonia in it or use Windex, but I'm just running straight water on this right now. Cat-like reflexes. I'm going to weight that down. Maybe I'll put that weight up here. While I'm gluing it, I don't want it to move around. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to glue it just to that stringer here and to the formers. And then I'll come back later and glue the stringer there. I think I might be ready to glue it. I think what I might do is glue it to the stringer and then glue it to the former from the inside. Should be able to reach it with that. Well, you know, with that tube. Well, wish me luck, because this is it. Okay. Got to go through this whole procedure all over again for the other side. It'll be worth it in the end. That looks really nice. It's nice and straight. Holding that little section there. Okay, so I went ahead and glued it to the formers from the inside. Now I'm going to use my straight edge because I want to keep that top arrow straight as possible. So it's only the top is only gluing to that stringer. So as you can see, I'm set back about a 1/16 of an inch on the edge of that, on the edge of the sheeting. So I'm going to run a thin CA in here. And that is going to, don't move. That'll glue that. Shit, too much. Let that set a second. And basically the left side sheeting is done. I'll bring you in close to show you when I get this, make sure this thing is glued. Pushing up from the bottom because it's Doesn't want to. It's not cured yet. There, I think it's got it. Alright, I think we're good. I'll take you off the tripod and bring you around and show you. Okay. There it is. 0 waves. 0 cracks. And it's nice and clean. Now, like I said, I'll glue little pieces of balsa up here next to the cabanes so that when I go to fill that, it won't ooze filler down inside the fuselage. It'll just fill that void. So I'm going to do the other side off camera, and then we will get that centerpiece put in. Okay, now's the time to put this top piece in, and after much trial and error, I got a little bit of sanding to do, just a hair. I'm ready to glue this in. It's got a nice fit. So probably going to glue it to the formers here, all the way down the center, and here. And this I'll thin CA, so that's what we're going to do. And before that thin CA gets a chance to dry, I'm going to go over it with some 220 to fill in that gap. First I want to make a mark. That's about where I want it. Pretty tight. So how do I want to make a mark? I'm just marking it lightly with a pen. That way when I go to put it in, I'll get it lined up right. Matter of fact, I can probably glue it to one stringer. I'll just do what I said I was going to do. Here's the scary part, because you can get a wave in it. And it'll be readily noticeable. That ain't good. All right, we got a good seam there. Do the same thing over here. I'll go underneath it and reinforce this glue joint after I'm done here. Sorry if it's noisy. Can't help it. I don't want to sand too much, but it looks decent to me, and I don't see. Let's see. Let's see how many waves we have in this thing. Careful you don't ding up your balsa sheeting. That looks pretty flat to me. I don't know about y'all. Okay. Now that I got that done, I'm going to flip it somehow without breaking off those. Probably shouldn't break off, but I'm going to reinforce that joint with some regular CA. I'm just going along that stringer on the side that I just glued, not the sheeting, the side sheeting side. It's just to reinforce that. Turning out pretty decent, I think. I'm happy with it. All right, get out of the way. Get out of the way. You guys probably can't see what I'm doing. I'm just running a glue fillet along that stringer that I just glued that centerpiece to. After I'm done, I'll bring you off the tripod and show you. I'm debating putting a glue fillet along that center stringer, but while I'm here, might as well get her done. Hard to control that tip when it's that deep in there. That sounded a little bad. This baby is probably going to be the best ultimate biplane I've ever built. And as boring as my videos are, it's good documentation. Ideas, and if I want to change anything, I go back and see what I did, in detail in the video and change whatever I need to change. Or whatever I want to change. Ooh, starting to burn my eyes. I got a lot of glue in there. Really don't need all this weight up here, but I think I'm going to be all right as far as my CG is concerned. Okay. She's done. Now, I think I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to cut it a little bit long, and then I'll sand it flush. Same with this up here. weight it down. Oh man, did that break? Oh crap. Yeah, well. Broke my sanding disc. Oh well. Those weights really come in handy. So let's I don't want to press down too hard on that. I'll put my finger right through it. That would suck. These permagrip bars have paid for themselves in labor. If you ever get a chance to get them, I suggest getting them. They're very helpful. They're a little pricey, but they last forever. I like it. Oh, better watch what I'm doing. Now I'm going to come down here and sand this flush. You know what's after this, don't you? The dreaded turtle deck. Old Gordon Price, so I'm proud of this one. Okay. Done with the top. Feels pretty good. I'm going to just lightly sand. What do I got on here? Sounds like I'm dragging something. I just smoothing out the raised grain. Lightly, of course. All right. I am going to get you off there. Come show you. Well, I think we've reached a good stopping point. We got that top completely finished on the front. Next episode, we will do the horizontal stabilizer and fin and the turtle deck. We'll get that all taken care of. We're doing pretty good, and I'm really happy with the way that turned out. I like using the thicker balsa on that because it gives you a little bit more strength in that area. The original wood was trash. It was, I don't know, I think the kit might have been had some water damage or something, because the wood was so brittle and soft, and it wasn't consistent from one side to the other. Like I said, one side had C grain, the other side had A grain, and I showed you that C grain will crack instantly if you put any bend to it. So I'm glad I redid that. It looks pretty dang good. I got my Cabanes on. They're just kind of setting on there. I had to bend them to get these cross pieces to mate up, but it's all in there straight, 90 degrees to the top of the fuselage, so it should be good. So I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed. It's past 1 o'clock in the morning, and we'll get this thing finished. Who knows how many more episodes, but I want to show all the detail, and if it takes me 25 episodes to get to the covering part of it or the finishing part, then that's what it's going to take. I'm not worried about it. So I hope you liked the content. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel. Hit that notification bell so that you can be notified of future episodes of this build series or any other build series you might be interested in seeing. And be sure and share my videos. It might help out the new guy that's going to try to build one of these things. These biplanes are very labor intensive because they got twice the wing to build. And I made it even worse by doing the lost foam. But I don't usually do that. So anyway, till next episode, thanks for watching.